Folks, if you are not hearing me, let me try one more time. We are repeating Q4 of 2022 as buyers. What does that mean? That means you should be asking for seller credits. Now, for a lot of folks, that might be something super exciting like a 2-1 buy down. Get the seller to pay for it. Historically, these have only been available to conventional buyers. But guess what? The boys from Convoy Home Loans have a super secret and exciting announcement to make right now. All right, guys, what do you got? What's coming in non-QM?
So as of today, we now have on purchases, obviously, like you said, paid by the seller, 2-1 buy downs available across the board on all our non-QM products. So that includes DSCRs, that includes bank statement, that includes asset depletion across the board. We can do a 2-to-1 buy down. So, I mean, we checked this morning. If your stats are good enough, you could put and the seller's willing to credit the difference big enough, you could potentially be in the 5s in the first year on a DSCR loan, and then 6, and then 7. So there you go.
Wow. Now, I hope people. So again, let's tell people what a 2-1 buy down is. It's just basically year one, your interest rate is 2 points lower than it would have been. Year 2, it's 1 point lower. And then year 3 through year 30, the rate is the rate. Correct?
That's correct.
And what we're talking about here, the seller credit or seller funded. Folks, like screaming, write disrespectful offers, structure the deal so you win. Sometimes you could write it for a slightly higher price, but get seller credit so the net to the seller might be the same, but then you get these 2-1 buy downs, and maybe you're buying a value add, maybe you're buying this or that, maybe you're betting. I mean, I don't know what you're doing, but these 2-1 buy downs now in the non-QM space, I think it's game changing. Good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's no secret that a lot of investors do end up using a non-QM product to finance, their properties, especially purchasing, right? And now having that ability where we kind of felt like we were left in the dark to a certain degree over the last year, like, dang, like we can do it at Convoy, but you got to be a conventional buyer. You got to be an FHA buyer. Opening up the doors for us to be able to literally walk out of this Zoom or, podcast and go over a loan with the client that, hey, yeah, your DSCR purchase could be at 5.25 for the first year and then 6.25 the next, and you want to refi after grade is going to be, something pretty exciting, I think.
Now, and again, I don't know that a lot of people understand what happens in a 2-1 buy down. Basically, what the seller does is, I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say there's a $20,000 credit. That money essentially gets escrowed and funds the rate buy down. And then, like, if you were going to refi it at month 13, there's 11 months of credit still available, which at the refi would be money, I guess, to the buyer. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it comes from that account. So what people will see on their payment statements will be the full payment at the full rate. So they would see 7.25, they'll see 7.25. But what's going to happen is they're going to pay the payment at 5.25 from their pocket. And then for account, it'll fill in the difference between the 7.25 and then the 5.25. And that 2% difference is what the escrow account will fund and make the whole to the lender. Now that 20 grand or whatever amount that sits in there, it's based on the amount of interest that's basically
paid.
Interest in between the two rates, right? So that's how they calculate out how much actually goes into that account. So if you get a 2% of the purchase price credit, then that could be very much be that difference in interest between the 2% in the 2-year period, and then kind of fund the difference in, and that that would really play in the buyer's favor.
Now, in conventional, sometimes there is a limit to the amount the seller can contribute. Maybe it's 2 points, maybe it's 3 points. Is there such a limit in non-QM?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the product, state, et cetera, normally 2 to 4% is going to be the cap.
Okay.
That's again, for properties, I should say, and when you ask non-QM, mine's different, but you can technically go up to 6 still on primary non-QM. So.
Okay. All right. And these new products, again, brand new to the non-QM space, didn't exist yesterday, exist today at Convoy Home Loans. People really need to reach out to you guys to figure out what's best for them, best for their situation. I know you got a lot of other exciting DSCR products going on. What else do you guys want to just tease people with?
I mean, with obviously the headlines on rates going crazy, and I think Dustin did a little bit of he did a Google search yesterday, and it was crazy because he did use an investment Google search, right? That you did with like 25% down or something.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to pick, like, if I'm a new client, basically, and I go on Google and search, like, what's the average 30-year fixed rate? You know, like Google spits it out for you at 8. Now, we know that that may not be 100% accurate because we know it's not, but that's what Google obviously appeals to the masses, and a lot of people use Google. Look, that even though rates are at 8, we can still get DSCRs in the low 7s, which is crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this gap between conventional and DSCR is it's pretty thin these days. If you're, the right credit, the right profile, things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And recently I just did I put in a client that was conventional would have been a 7.875 as like par, and the DSCR option was also 7.875 at par. So at that point, I was like, hey, there's no reason to really add all this extra income documentation. But
no, trust me, don't go through that nightmare for zero.
It's the same product essentially. And on top of that, I mean, there's a prepay versus no prepay, but even bringing it, like buying out the prepay to like 1 year or something, it's like it was a no-brainer to go that route. And then on top of that, like we talked about last week, we did this loan on a soft pull. In an entity, doesn't show up on personal credit, just business only. So it was like a lot of extra benefit on top of just being the same rate that they were like, okay, no brainer.
Yeah, folks, at the end of the day, the reason Convoy Home Loans is here each week is because they will help you understand what is right for you. They will ask questions. And I've even heard that they will tell you when there's no skin on the bone, don't do that deal. It's risky. It's an alligator. So how should they reach out to you guys if they want to see what's what?
Yeah, go to convoyhomeloans.com and let us know you came from ORAT.
Yep, folks, if you tell them you came from ORAT, you get one of these two fine gentlemen. And if you don't, no promises. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.